größte Jugendkundgebung der Welt. Ich melde Ihnen den freiwillig vollzogenen Eintritt von 917.445 Jugendlichen am 20. April dieses Jahres. Heil Jugend!
1944, 100,000 young people in brown shirts crammed into the Munich Stadium in Germany, the Olympic Stadium, and they formed with their bodies a sign that said, "Hitler, we are yours."
What is the vision for the next 25 years? I'll tell you what it is. It is the global expansion of the kingdom of God. It is the total mobilization of His church. And the third part is the dream of a radical devotion of every believer. In 1939, in a stadium much like this in Munich, Germany, they packed it out with young men and women in brown shirts for a fanatical man standing behind a podium named Adolf Hitler, the personification of evil. And in that stadium, those in brown shirts formed with their bodies a sign that said, in the whole stadium, "Hitler, we are yours." And they nearly took the world. When I hear those kind of stories, I think, what would happen if American Christians, if world Christians, if just the Christians in this stadium, followers of Christ, would say, "Jesus, we are yours"? What kind of spiritual awakening would we have? Jesus said, "I want you to do this publicly." So what I want you to do is take the card, and in just a minute, if you'd say, "Rick, I am willing to serve God's purposes in my generation," I want you to open up to the sign that says, "Whatever it takes, whatever it takes." And I want you to just say, "This is my commitment before God and in front of everybody else. I'm in." Then I would invite you to just stand quietly and hold up whatever it takes. I'm looking at a stadium full of people who are saying, "Whatever it takes, God."
Fix your eyes upon Him, deepen your knowledge of the gospel, and bring forth abundant fruit. With you the good news of Christ's love, which we have experienced in these unforgettable days. God bless all of you until we meet again.
there you have it. That's the introduction for the video. Quite some interesting things there. If you notice, as far as I've been able to find from my research, I believe that Hitler was the very first one to have mass youth rallies. Of course, there are none in the Bible. If you've seen the other two sermons in this study, the childhood conversions and one about Sunday school and Vacation Bible School about the history of it, there really weren't that many movements among the youth or for the youth back years ago. So as far as I've been able to find, and maybe somebody out there, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Hitler was the very first one to really hold these massive public youth rallies. All right, and of course, Rick Warren compares his own congregation to the Nazi youth. Very interesting there. And of course, I do believe that that's actually an accurate, description. We're going to see about that as we continue on in this video. But Hitler, at his very biggest rally, had 1 million people, 1 million youths present. This last part there that we just saw, the World Youth Day here in this year, 2013, in Rio, they had over 3 million in attendance. So the Catholics actually currently have 3 times as many people attending their rallies, 3 times as many youth, I should say, attending their rallies as did Hitler way back there in the 1930s and into the 1940s. All right, very interesting. But did you notice too there, the Catholic video, the World Youth Day, it says an encounter with Jesus Christ at one point in time. You can go back in the video and watch that again if you haven't seen this. But they say an encounter with Jesus Christ, and it shows these people, and then it goes to a scene of a priest giving the little wafer thing to a woman, putting it in her mouth. Now see, that's Catholic doctrine. That's the encounter with Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is the cookie. And you eat him, and then you have Christ in you. Sure. And then it follows that with a picture of Pope Benedict XVI. And again, Catholic doctrine says that the Pope is another Christ. He's a faithful substitute, Son of God, basically. So, a little bit of, symbology going on there. But it brags, that it's the largest youth gathering in the world in that video. If you can, you can go back there and watch that. And it's interesting because Hitler's minister of the youth there, the guy that took care of the youth, he said the thing too. He said that same thing. This is the largest youth gathering in the world. And now the Catholics are doing it. And by the way, study history sometime. You'll see that the Catholic Church, under Pope Pius XII, I think it was, signed a concordant with Adolf Hitler. So the Vatican was giving money and financing the Nazi Party, as well as Mussolini and Franco in Spain. All 3 of them were aligned with the Catholic Church. And after the war, the Catholic Church helped a lot of the Nazi war criminals escape. But ironically, the Pope was never tried as a Nazi war criminal. Of course not, because he's above the law. At least the laws of this world. But then, of course, at the end of that video, the World Youth Day, you see this huge crowd and all different flags from all different nations flying. What are they trying to symbolize? They are trying to symbolize the New World Order, the coming one world government of the Antichrist. You see, what I want to show you, what I'm going to prove to you in this video is, Adolf Hitler was a very, very evil man, certainly. But what Adolf Hitler was doing, what he was trying to form, could never have been the system of Antichrist. Never. Why? Because he was limiting it to one kindred of people, the Germans. Okay? This new movement is not saying only the German kindred. The new movement is saying we accept all kindreds, all. It's the modern politically correct term, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, is races. Let's get all races to come together, all religious faiths and things like this. That's what they're trying to do. And we're going to see that as we continue, that this is the agenda that is being pushed through Vacation Bible School, through youth movements. It's being pushed. And notice what Rick Warren said in his demented cult followers there. They said, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to bring in a global transformation of the church. Think about that. I want to show you that. I'm going to show you some video in this study here of the Nazi youth movement, and I'm going to show you how it lines up exactly with what's going on today. And in fact, it lines up, but it's mild compared to what's going on right now here in America. Just incredible. Now, the first video we're going to watch, you're going to see some very interesting things. Okay? Now, I want you to think in your mind, I want you to remember that Hitler was preparing the youth to one day be the army that he would use to go out and wage war. Alright? Now, if I'd go back in time into the early 1930s and try to tell people, Hitler's preparing the youth for war, they'd look at me and say, yeah, you're crazy. Come on. It's just an innocent youth movement. He's just trying to teach these German children about their heritage and their culture and whatever else. They'd have thought I was crazy. Just like a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy for saying that today the youth movement of the churches is actually preparing the army for the Antichrist. Because you look at the Jesus that most of these modern churches worship, their description of who Jesus is, it's the Antichrist. Okay? But think about this. Keep this stuff in mind. Compare what was going on in Nazi Germany to what's going on today with the current youth movement. The philosophy of the young people over the old people. We're bringing in new things. Global transformation. Like Rick Warren said to his people. We got to get rid of the old ways. It's not working anymore. We have to bring in new things. New. Remember that. So let's watch this first video here about the Nazi youth.
From his first days of power, Hitler knew that he had to bring the children of Germany under his control. The future of the Third Reich rested on their shoulders. Hitler wanted to produce a generation of dedicated and ruthless Nazis. A generation who could realize his dream of conquering the world.
Wir wollen nicht der Letzte sein in diesem Konzert der Welt, sondern wir wollen mit die Ersten sein. Das ist unser Gelöbnis. Und dass dieser Wunsch in Erfüllung geht, seid ihr mir verantwortlich, denn in euch liegt die Zukunft der Nation und des Deutschen Reichs.
The new Germany was to be forged in an organization where boys and girls would learn to dedicate their lives to Hitler. This movement was the Hitler Youth. The Hitler Youth would expand until it controlled every aspect of German children's lives.
We suddenly felt different from before. We were important and had a mission.
We were like soldiers. We were actually sworn in. Even though we were only 14, we swore to give our lives for the Führer, the people, and the fatherland.
German schools quickly fell under Nazi control. In Hitler's classrooms, children learned the art of war.
Pretty amazing, some parallels there going on. You know, it talked about Hitler needing to get control of the children for a future army, just like I was saying. That's exactly what's going on today. The army of the Antichrist, I believe, is being prepared right now, as we speak. I believe that think about it. Modern churches that fall under the name Christian are government entities, according to IRS Code Section 501c3. If you don't know about it, check out some of the other videos that I've done, particularly the house church video. Okay, I get into the whole thing there. If you are 501c3, you have to do what the government tells you to do. So we already have government-controlled churches here in America. And you're going to see this as we continue in this study. They were working with these churches to brainwash the youth, as well as the public school. Now, if you've seen the last study, the Sunday school, history of Sunday school, in that study, I actually show that public schooling is derived from the Sunday school movement. So it's just incredible. And did you notice there too that it says that these boys and these girls were told to dedicate their lives to Hitler, to the fatherland, to Germany? Now think about that. What are young children told to do in Sunday school today and Vacation Bible School? They're said to dedicate their lives to Christ. But the problem is the Christ that they're dedicating their lives to bears no resemblance at all to Jesus Christ in the Bible. This Christ that they're dedicating their lives to, he's coming to bring world peace. And he loves people. Don't you know he loves you, and he will never judge somebody because of their sins. He's okay with everybody. He's cool with this. He's cool with that. He's a rock and roll guy. All these descriptions that they're coming up with are descriptions of the Antichrist. So these children are being taught, dedicate your lives to Christ. And see, the children in Nazi Germany, they were dedicating their lives to Hitler because they could see him there. That's why there was such radical devotion. Now think about what's going to happen after the rapture. When the Antichrist is revealed, the children that are old enough, that are here on the earth, those children are going to dedicate their lives to the Antichrist. And they're going to be radical. That's why the Bible talks about that they'll kill you thinking they do God service. Right? Really, really crazy. But it said there too that the Nazi youth movement expanded until it controlled every aspect of the lives of the youth. Now isn't that funny, because that's exactly how many youth are today, right now in America. You have Sunday school, then you have things Sunday evening and stuff like that. You have your Wednesday night Bible study or little program, Awana, or one of these other little programs like that. You have other little youth events and youth retreats and things, and you're just there all the time. And then you throw in public school on top of that. You get sports, you get all kinds of other little programs, and it becomes your whole life as a child. Same thing that was going on in Nazi Germany. And most children today are, in fact, totally controlled by their youth groups and their schools. Most children today, in fact, if a child says, I don't want to be part of anything, I don't want to go to youth group, I don't want to go and be part of any extracurricular activities after school, or I don't even want to go to public school, that child's looked at as a social outcast, and in fact, maybe something's wrong with them. Yeah. But it's interesting because I did a little bit of research here on the oldest youth movements. The oldest one we could find was in 1787, the Lediger Verein, the SBA, Swiss Basel Association, and it was a young men only singles club in Basel, Switzerland. So that's the oldest one I could find, 1787. All right. After that, you have 1843, B'nai B'rith Youth Organization. Okay, that was international. I believe that was a Jewish one, basically. 1844, you have Young Men's Christian Association, also known as the YMCA in London, England. So that goes back, in other words, what I'm trying to say is Hitler didn't come up with the youth movement, okay? According to the research we've been doing, I can't find any large youth rallies, public youth rallies, of the size that Hitler was doing there in Nuremberg and things. I can't seem to find any others. Maybe there are. Maybe we just didn't find it. But as far as youth movements, there have been youth movements for a while. But continuing here, 1864, Girls Incorporated, New York, USA. 1895, Jewish Lads Brigade, United Kingdom. 1908, the Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts USA. Before the Nazi youth. You say, no, come on, Brian. Comparing the Boy Scouts to the Nazis? Come on. It's a nice little organization. Well, we're going to see about that in just a few minutes here. 1912, the Blau-Weiß Jewish group in Germany. So there was actually a Jewish youth group in Germany before Nazi Germany. 1920, the Young Communist League in the United States. That's a good one. 1922, Hitler Youth. That's when it started in Germany. 1944, the Youth for Christ movement in the United States. And actually their very first full-time staff member was Billy Graham. And Billy Graham started going around and speaking at these Youth for Christ rallies and stuff like this. And then, of course, Skull and Bonesman, I think Henry Luce was the one that got a hold of Billy Graham, and he said, Puff Graham, you know, that whole thing. He owns Time magazine, this guy, and I think it was Henry Luce. But anyhow, you know, Billy Graham became a big success. But he was involved in youth ministry. Right around the time that the Nazi Party was starting to really fall apart, nearing the end of the war, which was, I believe, 1945, I think. You know, very interesting. But I'm going to show you here an article, the New York Times, where are we at here? May 13th of 2009. And I can show you some of the screenshots of this thing, but here's your good organization, you know. I mean, the Nazi youth, they turned out to be militaristic, and they trained these young people to fight for Hitler. And, of course, the Boy Scouts wouldn't do a thing like that now, would they? Oh, no, not at all, you know. Look at those nice little peaceful Boy Scouts out there, you know, preparing to come kick down the door of your home and, you know, take you off to a camp someplace. There's your Boy Scouts for you. But I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll give you the links and things in the video description boxes. But it says here, this is about being a true-blooded American guy and girl, said A.J. Lowenthal, a sheriff's deputy here in Imperial County, whose life clock, he says, is set around the Explorers events he helps run. It fits right in with the honor and bravery of the Boy Scouts. Sounds just like the propaganda Adolf Hitler was putting out. You're going to see later on where Hitler's up there and he's giving his big speech and he says, "You are flesh of our flesh and blood of our blood." This is about being a true-blooded American guy and girl. Same thing. You don't be a true-blooded American, don't you? I mean, you wouldn't be against training boys and girls to go out and kick down doors and running with MP5s and scream at people to get on the ground. That's good stuff. And I mean, of course, with the Nazi youth, you see it turn into a bad thing. But here in America, everything turns out good in America. Sure it does. How about this one over here in this article? She says, Kathy Noriega, also 16, she talks about different things, shooting these guns and things. And she says here, sometimes we get to shoot real guns on a closed range. I like shooting them, Kathy said. I like the sound they make. It gets me excited. See, go back to Nazi Germany, and children saying, "I like to shoot guns" and things like this, you know. And they did that, by the way. The Nazi youth movement, they would take these kids and they'd go and they'd combine them with the military and they let them shoot real guns. Just like going on today with the Boy Scouts. But it says down here, many law enforcement officials, particularly those who work for the rapidly growing Border Patrol, part of the Homeland Security Department, have helped shape the program's focus and see it as preparing the explorers as potential employees. This isn't playing cowboys and Indians, folks. They're getting the youth ready to go out and kick people's doors in. It's the same thing as the Nazi youth, and in fact, the Boy Scouts predate the Nazi youth. And how many Bible buildings out there, churches, how many of them have Boy Scouts incorporated right in with them? I know some people here went to a Lutheran Bible building here, not too far from here. I know they went there and they said all the people talked about was Boy Scouts. What are we doing with the Boy Scouts this week? Boy Scouts, Boy Scouts, Boy Scouts. And the Girl Scouts too. But it says here, the Explorer posts are attached to various agencies including the Federal Bureau of Investigation and local police and fire departments that sponsor them much the way churches sponsor Boy Scout troops. Oh, Nazi Germany, that was such a horrible thing. I'm so glad Nazi Germany fell. It's never going to come back. It's already here. It's already here. Our end goal is to create more agents, said April McKee, a senior Border Patrol agent and mentor at the session here. Since the attacks of September 11, 2001 and the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, many posts have taken on an emphasis of fighting terrorism and other less conventional threats. Ooh, okay, so these little children are being told to go out and fight terrorism. You know, look up the description of domestic terrorists sometime. And other less conventional threats. What, you mean like a veteran? Military veteran that's got a few guns and is mad at the way the government's going? You know, sending the kiddies to go attack them? Oh, they wouldn't do a thing like that, would they? Sure. Continuing here. Most have weekly meetings in which the children work on their law enforcement techniques in preparing for competitions. Weekends are often spent on service projects. What do we just watch here? That the Nazi youth movement soon began to take over all their free time? You're going to see that as we continue. It says here, their hearts pounding, explorers moved down alleys where there were hidden paper targets of people pointing guns and made split-second decisions about when to shoot. In rescuing hostages from a bus taken over by terrorists, a baby-faced young girl screamed, "Separate your feet," as she moved to handcuff her suspect. Sounds like good times ahead, doesn't it? You know, don't worry though, because, see, America is always the good guy. And those wicked Germans over there, you know, they have that horrible past of Nazi Germany, and oh, it was so evil and so terrible. And fortunately, we've vanquished the threat of extreme fascism, and it'll never come back. Right. Pretty bad. Now we're going to go on to the second video. Look again for some key things here that they're going to compare to our modern day American society. Check this out.
The Hitler Youth Movement charmed Germany's children and seduced them to its cause. By the time Hitler took the nation to war, millions had joined its ranks. They learned total devotion to Hitler and would ultimately be asked to sacrifice everything for their master. This is the story of Hitler's children.
Now, if they did that for a regular man like Hitler, can you imagine what the youth in the future are going to do for the Antichrist? Especially believing, as I do, that when the Antichrist shows up, he's going to be a perfect counterfeit for Jesus Christ. Can you imagine the fanatical devotion that the youth are going to have? Especially after being prepared for all these years. Give your life to Christ. Give your life to Christ. Be dedicated fully to Christ. Do whatever it takes. Dangerous stuff. Let's go on to the next video.
I saw all the progress in Germany. People getting work, the flags, processions, torch-lit parades. We were excited by it. It was like a mass hypnosis. It put me under its spell.
It was like a mass hypnosis. It put me under its spell. With what they had back then, in the 1930s and 40s? What's it going to be like in the future? Well, these children that have been raised on the mainstream media, the television, the Hollywood movies, the music, the rap music, the rock music, Can you imagine what these people are going to be like in this time of Jacob's trouble? Could it be that that's why Jesus Christ explained how that the days would have to be shortened so that some flesh could be saved? And that this time is not going to be like any time in history? Think about that. The videos that you see of Nazi Germany, where you see these bodies being bulldozed into trenches and the bodies being thrown onto the back of trucks, and the Lord says, the time that's coming, when the Antichrist shows up, there's never been a time like that before. It's going to be that bad. Wow. You say, well, how far away is that? Not very far. We're seeing the development of it right now. We're seeing the youth being prepared, conditioned by the media and also by the modern churches. They're being prepared to devote their lives totally to the Antichrist. And what's the carrot? What's the carrot? Progress. Seeing the money, seeing the wealth, and saying, I want to be part of this system. Let's go on to the next video.
The regime was determined to attract the young. Boys couldn't wait to join the Jungvolk, the Hitler Youth Wing for 10 to 14-year-olds.
We boys felt somehow elated. Suddenly, we mattered.
In the initiation ceremonies, thousands of children dedicated their lives to Hitler.
From the local party heads to the junior boys leaders, we were now part of one big community.
The main part of the Hitler Youth was for boys, but there was a separate wing for girls.
We were a new generation, a generation that would one day rule Greater Germany. It made sense to us.
Mass swearing of oaths. You know, I've never been a Boy Scout, but I've known people that have been in that, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and they talk about you swear an oath when you go into the thing. You know, raise your right hand, you know, and you do this little oath and stuff, and they say, oh, come on, Brian, it's just innocent. It was innocent there, too, back under the Nazi youth movement. It's incredible. Continuing here, we'll go to the next video.
We felt more at ease in the group with the uniform and the sing-alongs than we did at home with our parents.
They said of anyone who wasn't a member, he's not one of us, he's an outcast. He doesn't fit into the community of the Greater German Reich.
As the Nazis tightened their grip on Germany, the Hitler Youth movement's drive for members gathered pace. They would use any means possible to seduce Germany's youth.
Interesting. The first man there says that he felt more at home with the youth than he did with his own family. Just like a lot of the youth movements do today. They'd rather be around their friends and hang out with their friends than be around their parents, and especially their grandparents, because the grandparents just aren't cool at all, are they? I mean, they're just stuck in their old ways and all this other stuff. Yeah. Pretty sad. But the other man said there that he wasn't, anyone who was not part of the Nazi youth was not part of the community. You know, the word community does not appear in your King James Bible. Congregation does. But the new versions like the NIV have replaced the word community or congregation with community. It's a New Age term. Okay? But it's interesting because that's also the term that a lot of these modern churches are using. We need to create community. That's what they say. I mean, the tie-ins here, folks, I mean, you can come to your own conclusions. I'm not telling you what to believe, but if you're not seeing this stuff, you don't have your eyes open, or your brain's not on, or something. I don't know. But notice, too, it said in the video that the Nazis used any means possible to seduce the youth. Whatever they could do, they did it to seduce the youth. Kind of like Rick Warren's people saying whatever it takes. Something to think about. Check out the next video.
Hitler Youth leaders realized the importance of keeping their young recruits busy. There was a set program of events every weekend.
A set program of events every weekend? Youth meeting, choir, children's church, Sunday school, VBS. Well, there's no connection there, right? Well, I don't think I've ever seen any, church building teaching extreme kindred separation and extreme loyalty to the country, to America or something. I don't think I've actually seen that. But what they are teaching is they are teaching this new community type of a thing and bringing everybody together, and let's all work together and let's all be together. That's what I am seeing. You say, well, Brian, you haven't shown any proof. Keep watching. It's coming. But let's check out the next one.
The highlight of the year was the Hitler Youth Summer Camp.
Youth summer camps? Huh. Imagine that. A youth summer camp. And I actually knew a guy, went to high school with him, and he was actually sexually molested in a youth summer camp, a Methodist youth summer camp. And later on, he took his life. Oh, but these youth camps, brother, they're good and they're sound scripturally. Sure they are. Yeah. Continuing.
All those things, the outings, the fire and so on, were copied. The appeal of the young folk was based directly on the atmosphere of the old Youth League.
But there was a more sinister motive to the Hitler Youth activities. This was the start of a military training program.
So they lured the children in with fun activities, camping and fishing and hiking, and isn't this fun, swimming in the lakes and all that, everything? They lured them in with that, and then once they had the youth, then they said, let's exercise a little bit. Hey, you're doing really good. Boy, you'd make a good soldier. I mean, a good adult, And as time got by, it just became more and more obvious they're training these youths for future military force. And you know what's interesting? Hitler, I don't know the actual number of how many he had in his military, be it the SS or the Wehrmacht or the Luftwaffe, which is the Air Force. All the different branches of the Nazi military, probably up into the couple millions or so. I'd say probably less than 50 million. I don't know for sure. I don't have an exact number on that. But there's coming an army in the future of the Antichrist there. The Antichrist army is going to be 200 million men. When would you start training for that army? An army that would swear its absolute obedience, even unto death, to their leader. You start training before that leader even shows up. You start training the youth to be radically devoted and to say, whatever it takes. I'll do whatever it takes to bring in a global transformation. You see where this movement is going? You see how this thing is happening? And isn't it interesting that Rick Warren is working to bring Muslims and Christians together? Islam is a military religion. It's a cult. It's a satanic cult. But it's based on military power to spread the religion, the faith of Islam. And of course you can convert peacefully, when they can't have full power in that country. But you get a country where Islam is in power, it's convert or die. Well, let's continue. And before we continue, I do need to give a little warning here. I apologize for the music here of this modern VBS movement. It's extremely fleshly. It's satanic rock music, rap music. It's bad. It's going to get in your head. I apologize in advance, but it's important that I show this thing. If I don't show it, then people say you didn't show proof. If I do show it, they say you shouldn't have shown it. So I'm going to have to show it here. I apologize in advance, but it's important. Remember, it started out as fun in Nazi Germany. It's just a summer camp for kids. That's all we're trying to do. It's just fun. It's fun. It's fun. See, that's how it starts, and that military flavor starts to come into it. Watch this video. This is a modern day VBS movement. Here we go. I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. I'm a soldier in the army. I'm a soldier in the army of the Lord. I'm a soldier in the army. I got my war clothes on in the army of the Lord. I got my war clothes on in the army. I got my war clothes on. I got my war clothes on in the army. Yeah! Left, right, left, 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 I'm a soldier. Left, right, left. Come on now, left, 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 right, left. I'm in the Lord's army. Yes, sir. I'm in the Lord's army. I die in the army of the Lord. I'm gonna fight until I die in the army. Oh, I'm gonna fight until I die. I'm gonna fight until I die. You say, Brian, it's talking about spiritual. Well, I certainly understand that it can go that way, but couldn't it also be twisted and made into a real army for the Antichrist in the future? And it's interesting, remember the thing of left, 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 right, left. Remember that for later. Because I'm going to actually show you in a little bit, towards the end of the video, I'm going to show you there are already militarized drill teams in churches in America, and they're screaming, left, right, left, left, right. They're screaming at them. Just like in the military. You see, but Brian, this is crazy. It's all about spiritual. You saw the little guy there in the video, and he's got the little Bible, and he brings it out, you know, and he's going and kicking all this stuff and all that. It's just spiritual, Brian. Yeah, it's just fun. It's just a harmless youth camp. So what? They're doing jumping jacks. Big deal. I mean, the Nazis did it, yeah, and the children are doing it in the VBS, but big deal. There's no connection. They'd have called me crazy back then before Hitler started going out and invading other countries too. They'd have called me crazy for cutting on the Nazi youth movement. You better wake up. But now let's go on to the next video. Here we go.
Was wir uns unter der deutschen Jugend der Zukunft wünschen, ist etwas anderes, als was die Vergangenheit sich gewünscht hat. Wir müssen einen neuen Menschen erziehen.
Bin ich erstmal groß und nicht mehr klein.
When I'm big and out of infancy, a soldier of the Führer I'll be. That was the kind of slogan that captured my attention. I felt like repeating it when my mother said, "That's so childish." I remember thinking, "Mother dear, I haven't been a child for ages. I'll soon be a soldier."
Ich bin bald ein Soldat.
Hitler Youth leaders cleverly tapped into teenagers' naturally rebellious streak. They encouraged boys to distance themselves from their parents.
Was sonst üblich war, dass man mit Eltern am Sonntag spazieren ging.
We used to spend Sundays with our parents. We'd go out on a boat or for a walk or play a game.
But all that stopped because we were told, you can't go everywhere with your parents, you're a mummy's boy. None of us wanted to be a mummy's boy, me included, so we tried to cut the apron strings.
So, also musste man sich von Eltern abnabeln.
Ja, und da kam dann also der Konflikt mit dem Elternhaus.
It caused trouble at home. On Sunday mornings, while my father was preaching, I preferred to attend Hitler Youth meetings. I did drill on the square with the other boys, or march through the village singing songs.
Mit den Jungen exerziert oder bin Lieder singend mit denen durchs Dorf marschiert.
Couple very key things that we just saw there in that video. First of all, the Hitler Youth leaders tapped into the teenagers' natural rebellious streak. Oh, they wouldn't do that in the modern churches today, would they? Oh yeah, they would. In fact, if you saw my Mark of the Beast study, the woman from Google that used to be a DARPA, working for DARPA, and she's talking about this tattoo, this scannable barcode tattoo that she's got on her arm, and she says a lot of teenagers are going to do this just to pee off their parents. They tap into the teenager's natural rebellion. That's how they control the teenager. Interesting. The Nazi youth encouraged children to distance themselves from their parents. Just like today. They do the same thing. Boys used to spend Sunday afternoons with their families, but then they started to make fun of that. Again, just like a lot of the youth movements do today. Interesting. And of course, if you remember our study that we did on Sunday School and Vacation Bible School, it's the parents' responsibility to raise the children. So what better way to mess up the children than to get them away from the parents? By saying, you don't want to be with your parents, oh, you're mama's boy. Yeah. Man, you got to come be with the youth, man. This is where it's at. Don't go be with those, your parents? You're going to hang out with your parents? Oh, brother, come on, man. Sure. In the Nazi propaganda film, they said, quote, and if you are rebuked by the old, just let them bellow and scold. You don't want to use this old archaic book, do you? The old King James Bible? This thing's 400 years old. Elizabethan, archaic? This stuff isn't any good anymore. You want that snazzy new NIV, or the English Standard Version, or today's Living Bible, or any of the other garbage. You see? It's the same thing. Okay? Now there is one thing I wanted to mention here. I forgot to say it on the last video. What you're going to notice is with this modern Sunday School VBS modern videos, you're going to notice one thing. And this is very clever, very crafty. And you noticed it in the Catholic Youth Day, the World Youth Day thing. You'll notice it all throughout this modern propaganda. They do not show the pure Aryan Germanic people. They are not excluding all races to the superiority of one. They're not doing that. What they're doing is they're including all people, all collars. Okay? All of them. And watch my study on the thing of kindreds in the Bible. You know, the thing of kindred distinctions and stuff like that. God likes diversity. And when people all come together and say we're one, that's when you have trouble. Genesis chapter 11 verses 5 through 9 says, and the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one. And they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. Interesting little thing here. Just let me kind of give you a little side note thing here. Notice it does not say the Lord created a whole bunch of new languages. He said, it says here, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. What would have been the language back then? Hebrew. Interesting. And I actually watched a video by a Jewish rabbi, lost man, but very intelligent, and really an interesting video. And he actually showed that a lot of English words actually can be traced back to Hebrew. And the belief is there that all languages actually are derived from Hebrew. And what the Lord did is, He just went down and just went blah, 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 and jumbled up into people's minds, so they now are speaking jumbled up Hebrew. And it's, I don't understand what that guy's saying, you know, and he confounded the languages. Very interesting study. But again, what was the point? Why did God confound their language? So that they would spread out. When the people all became one, let's all join together. Let's do whatever it takes to join together. That's not what the Lord wanted. That was very much against what the Lord wanted. But we're going to continue to see that and watch, like I said, you watch these videos. You watch the Nazi youth stuff, it's all German children. All of them. You aren't going to see anybody of another kindred in there. Not going to happen. But you watch the modern ones, the modern propaganda for the coming Antichrist army, it's all, they will purposefully put representatives from different kindreds into the video. You watch. You watch. I'm going to show it to you as we continue. But now let's go on to the next one. And if you remember what I just got done saying, this modern CCM, contemporary Christian music movement, is designed to attack the old hymns, to attack things that are old. All right? They want to rip down the old traditional hymns, the old traditional ways. Elderly people, they like to mock them and make them look bad, just like they did with the Nazi youth. Okay? Encourage that rebellion to go against the old hymns, to go against the elderly. You say, Brian, you haven't really proved your point. Okay? Then let's watch this next video.
I love to tell the story. It will be my theme in glory to tell the old story of Jesus and His love.
Sorry for vexing you. Need to control my anger right now. It's so disgusting. Why couldn't they sing the song reverently? Why couldn't they sing it as the old hymn? Why did they have to destroy it and bring in the increased rhythm and the dancing and the jumping around? Why exalt the flesh? Why? And why couldn't they be reverent with an elderly lady, the little cartoon lady? Why couldn't they be reverent with her? Why did they have to make her jump around and put on a little immodest outfit and things like that? And at the end she rips off her gray hair and has rainbow colored hair. Why? Why? Well, because it's the same spirit that was there with the Nazi youth movement. It's that same spirit teaching children to rebel against the elderly and against the old ways, to mock and to put down Bible-believing Christians. Disgusting. But question, did you notice anything interesting going on there with the band members there of this satanic band Go Fish. Did you notice anything interesting going on there with their hands? You say, I don't know if I saw anything. Well, okay, let's start out here. You have the elderly lady. Sorry for it's kind of blurry there, but I froze the frame there. You can see the symbol of this Go Fish band there on her, sweatshirt or whatever. It's a pentagram. Symbol of witchcraft. And if it's inverted, symbol of Satanism. Baphomet, And there, of course, you have the band members. You have these three losers, these three Luciferians, and they all have pentagrams. Interesting. Oh, what's the guy in the middle doing? Pointing down and giving the satanic salute. And of course you have this little girl here, and other times she's not wearing this shirt. But all of a sudden there they give this little arrogant little look of pride. The Bible talks about things that the Lord hates, by the way, and one of them is a proud look, like that little child is doing right there. And she's got a pentagram, a shiny pentagram on her shirt. Oh, and there you have the guy again doing the hand signal. You say, well, Brian, that means I love you. Why isn't he doing it up like you're supposed to? And you see, in Satanism, if you look at pictures of Anton LaVey or these other guys, they do the back of the hand. When you do the front of the hand, that's usually, witchcraft or some other kind of thing like that. But most Satanists will do the back of the hand. I don't want to make my hand go like that because then people freeze the frame, and then make me look like I'm a Satanist or something, and I'm not. Let's see. Let's watch this slow motion here. Look at the guy in the middle. Okay? Very, very, very obviously, he's making this satanic hand gesture. It's not that I froze the frame real quick and then I just got it for just a split second as he was moving his hands. It's obvious that he's doing this thing. Let's look at a couple more here. There he's doing it again. The guy in the center. There he is again. The guy in the back there in the blue shirt. And there he's doing it again underneath this guy's arms there. Now we'll see another slowed down slow motion video. Let's watch again. Watch for the hands. See him under his arms. And the guy in the front even did it real quick. I mean, these guys are just, they're keeping it going. Again, look at that. Look at that. I mean, it's just blatant. Just incredible. There he's doing it again. Here you have at the end. And he's just taking his hands and he's going over and over and over and over again. Very interesting. Now let's go on to the next one. And now I want you to hear what this guy says. He says, quote, "Rebelliousness was exploited by the Hitler Youth and used for the purposes of the Third Reich." Listen.
Rebelliousness was exploited by the Hitler Youth and used for the purposes of the Third Reich.
I wonder what they are preparing the youth for in the future, today, the rebelliousness. Well, the Antichrist army. Just disgusting. Let's watch the next one.
As Hitler increased his stranglehold over Germany through the 1930s, the Hitler Youth became more and more important in boys' lives. The number of meetings and activities expanded to fill their free time and allow them no respite from Nazi thinking.
Das in Sklavenkette liegt, die wir Jungen einst zerbrechen werden. Wir erneuern in dieser Nacht den Führer und seine Idee, die Treueschwur.
For many boys, loyalty to the Führer replaced loyalty to their families.
Ich habe ja mich dann als Hitlerjunge geschämt. Zu meinem Bedauern muss ich das heute sagen, aber
I'm sorry to have to admit that when I was a member of the Hitler Youth, I was actually ashamed of my father because he wanted nothing to do with National Socialism.
Nationalsozialismus nichts wissen wollte.
I wonder how Christian youth feel today, well, we'll say professing Christian youth, feel today when their parents say, shut that ridiculous rap music off. Shut that rock and roll off. That stuff's horrible. That's disgusting. Sounds like a bunch of, you know, rabid cats in a tin can or something, you know. Well, I can tell you how it feels because I used to be one of those youths. That I would make fun of my parents and my grandparents when they didn't like the music I listened to. I was there. And again, if you don't know me that well, if you haven't seen a lot of my videos, the fact of the matter is I wasn't raised in an independent fundamental Baptist church and I was sheltered from all the evils of the world. I went to public school. I went to Sunday school. I went to a modern church. I used an NIV for 15 years. I used to have long hair. I was a radical supporter of heavy metal. Christian, of course, which led me into the secular satanic stuff. See, so I understand exactly what was going on there. I understand that. You know, where I got mad at my family and I was embarrassed actually by my own family, by my parents, because of the rebelliousness that was being inbred into me by the modern CCM movement as well as public schooling and the youth group that I had at my church that I grew up at. I would have fallen right into the Nazi movement. And I know many of you out there would have too. You know? Pretty incredible. Let's watch the next video.
The regime ensured that children repeatedly heard a simple yet seductive message. They were Germany's future.
The concept of youth was idealized.
Ihr seid einmal Deutschlands Zukunft, denn ihr seid einmal Deutschland. Ihr seid einmal unser Volk. Ihr seid einmal nicht die Hoffnung, sondern ihr müsst dann die Vollendung dessen sein, was wir hoffen.
Ihr seid.
You are. The young are. Old people have no idea. They're past it. They've had their day. Young people love to hear that kind of thing.
Menschen an.
I mean, are we seeing the tie-ins here, people? Have you been creeped out yet? I know I was creeped out majorly when I watched this thing because I never understood how this horrible, evil Nazi Germany that was over there, and it's so far away, and it's in the past, and it's not anymore, and it's just like, it's the exact programming that we go through as children in Sunday school and VBS and public schooling, and with the whole program of the children are being idolized in this nation. Yeah, totally. I mean, you have the green police. You know, you go to school and you're told, you know, if your parents are not being green, if they're not being environmentally sound or whatever in their decisions, report them. If they have illegal firearms, report them. If they do things that you don't like, report them to the school, to the authorities. You know, it's the same thing. In fact, it's worse today. Far worse than what was going on back there in Nazi Germany. You say, but Brian, I don't see the Nazi army right now in America. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Oh, and by the way, what was the Nazi youth, or what was the Nazi movement doing? The fascist military? They were going and blitzkrieging nations, other sovereign nations. But fortunately, America's not doing that. Yeah. You know, we just go in with bombs and blow up nations and things like that, and we're bringing you freedom. Yeah, sure you are. You know, and Hitler never used atomic weapons. America did. As far as I know, I don't think Hitler ever firebombed any cities. America did in World War II, and actually violated the Geneva Convention. Hitler, America, you know. America firebombed cities in Germany, as well as Japan. Used phosphorus and hit civilian targets. It's against the Geneva Convention. America didn't care. Did Hitler ever use depleted uranium as ammunition? Radioactive nuclear waste? America does. Right now, in Iraq and Afghanistan, you say, who cares? I don't care what we do to them stupid towel heads. Do you realize that it's also killing our own soldiers? Slow, painful death from radioactive materials? You can look that stuff up. Gulf War illness. Look up that one sometime. And see how our once strong, big, powerful soldiers are now these little crippled guys in wheelchairs from the first Gulf War. And many, many thousands have died. But we're not the same as Nazi Germany, mind you. I mean, they were bad. We're the good guys. Sure we are. But let's go on to the next video.
Nichts ist möglich, wenn nicht ein Wille befiehlt, denn immer die anderen zu gehorchen haben. Von oben beginnend und ganz unten erst endend.
Orders were followed blindly. You didn't question them. Orders were orders. It was simple. If you didn't obey, you would be treated accordingly.
Oh boy. Sounds pretty much like any day modern day church. You know? One person is to be in control. You better submit yourself to the man of God, brother. Huh? You better do that. It starts up here at the top, the hierarchy of the church, and it goes down to the bottom. Yeah. Pretty bad. And people just blindly follow what they're told. There are so many traditions, unscriptural traditions, and I don't mean that all the traditions in the modern day churches are evil and bad and sending you to hell. I didn't say that. Sunday best isn't going to send you to hell. But the point is, you aren't going to find the thing anywhere at all in Scripture. Just like Sunday school. Okay? You're not going to find it there. A forced 10% tithe for today. Not there. All these things that are being done in churches today, and the people are expected to blindly follow the will of their pastor. Why? Because they're being prepared for that Antichrist movement that's coming. You say, you're saying the saved people are going to be here? No, I didn't say saved people. Lost people. And the majority of church buildings out there are filled with lost people. Bad news. Let's go on to the next video.